Hi, good afternoon, class. My name is Madison Brown, and this is my culture event presentation. So, the culture event that I went to virtually because of COVID-19 is the 20th Annual African American Cultural Celebration. This is an event that was held online at the North Carolina Museum of History on January 30th, 2021. And the event was really long. It was from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. The theme for this year is health and healing, which I thought was awesome and super powerful. The event consisted of presentations and performances to celebrate the African American culture, as well as discussion of health disparities and how to promote healthy living, as well as interactive sessions with amazing artists and craftspeople. So the event consisted of 6 different sessions that viewers could enter to view. Starting off, it was the celebration of music, movement, and drama that had 2 different performances. And then there was also a replay of that. Last one, celebration history, film, and enterprise. This is the one that I personally went to, and I thought it was super interesting. The host was Earl Drains. There was a presentation from Farmer Brown and his daughter, and they were talking about sustainability and living off the land. There was also a presentation from Stephen Green, Brittany Price, and Jackie Ruffin Pittman, and they were talking about the Halifax Underground Railroad. And this is at 1 p.m. And they were talking about the freedom movement as slaves, exited out through the railroad. Another one that was super interesting was the 318 years of Black American Indian cultural. This is African American individuals who lived on the Eno River Basin. And this was presented by Judge Beverly Scarlett. This is something I wasn't fully aware of, but this is the tricultural of people, so people who identify as African American, but also Indian. So I thought that was really cool. The last one in this one that I attended was Slavery to Freedom in the Surrey County. And this is really interesting. I learned so much about that. Some other ones that they did have were the celebration of education and heritage, celebration of health and wellness, as well as the celebration of literature and spoken word. One that I found really interesting in this is they had the cartoonist Keith Knight in there, and I actually watched the TV show Woke, and I thought it was super fun and super interesting. And I didn't even know that Keith Knight was going to be in there, but I saw it on one of their flyers, and I was like, wow, that's cool. That's really just a weird connection that I had with that. And then lastly, they had celebration of art and crafts traditions. Here's some photos. These two were from last year, but I really wanted to include this one, the top one, because they did have several of the sessions that had closed captioning, which I thought was super cool and definitely needed for people who can't hear. And it's definitely accessible. So my overall thoughts about the event. So why did I choose this event? Obviously, with Black History Month being in February, I thought it was super important to educate myself. And I was willing to learn more about a culture other than mine that I didn't really know about. Black History Month was never something that I was super educated about. And so it was really fun to learn more about it. I also learned more about some really talented Black artists. Definitely have a great appreciation for the rich history, especially in the South. I definitely learned more ways to practice healthy living and further my education on the major health disparities among people of color. So, a policy that I've researched that does affect the African American community is actually the Affordable Health Care Act. So, under the ACA, Medicare eligibility was expanded for adults up to 138% of the poverty level. And however, in 2012, there was a Supreme Court ruling that was called the National Federation of Independent Business versus uh, Sebelis. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. But this made it optional for states to expand the Medicaid eligibility. So with 37 states having expanded Medicare through traditional ways or through Section 115, that left a lot of the states not being covered with this eligibility expansion. So interestingly enough, a lot of those states are concentrated in the South. So here's a visual demonstration of that concentration. So this in turn affects the African American community because a lot of them still in the South. Obviously, there's Black people everywhere, and this does affect everyone. But mainly does affect the South, which is really interesting. I'm not sure what's the reasoning behind that, but it is definitely something that affects the African American community and furthers the health disparities. So my overall feelings of the event, obviously with this being a virtual event, I felt less involved rather than it being an in-person thing. I wish I was able to dress up and go to an event. I think that would be so much fun right now. But with everything being online, I still enjoyed my time. Definitely learned more about some amazing, talented individuals. And I definitely have a greater appreciation for Black culture and a greater appreciation for Black History Month. Like mentioned before, those were things that I obviously appreciated before, but being further educated on that, I just have a greater appreciation for the culture. I think it's beautiful. So, what can social workers do to help the Black community? Obviously, we can continue to lead with empathy, be an ally, and willing to get involved in political activities that are driven for change. Always, always, always educate yourself and educate others about racial inequality. Continually fight for social justice, speak up against racism, and to engage in open discussions. I feel like sometimes it might feel like there's one side yelling at another side. And so if we're willing to just sit down and like have those like really heart to heart conversations, I think that's really going to be the agent of change. Continually elevate Black voices. As a white woman, it's really important to realize when it's important to elevate someone else's voice rather than speaking over them. Because as a white woman, I have that white privilege. So if I'm willing to see my white privilege and to make sure that I am allowing Black people or people of color to talk about their experience, I think that's really important. And as always, following the National Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics, as a social worker, this should be our tried and true to follow always. How the event shaped my future work as a social worker. Definitely further my education on Black History Month, the importance of it, which would help me educate others. I learned more about the deep history in the South, which will help me be culturally grounded as a social worker and help with clients. Learn more about educated myself about the major health disparities among African American community, which helps social workers assess the issue and try to fix the many inequalities. Something I can personally do as a change agent, continually educate myself and others, support agencies that are fighting for social justice, like Black Lives Matter, continually educate Black voices, like I said. Another key one is to support Black owned businesses. I think this is important to put your money in the right places. Be willing to have hard conversations about racism in America in a very civil way, in a proper way. And always, always, always be willing to speak out. These are my references, and I really hope you learned a little bit more about this event that I was able to go to, and thank you so much for your time.